check, testing. Testing, 1, 2, check.
Hello.
Hello there, Mr. Thiago Pereira.
Oh, is this on the stream?
Yes, this is the stream. We have a driver with us in the commentary box today. Thiago Pereira, hello, how are you?
I'm good. I didn't realize we were on stream yet. Okay.
We are on stream, Mr. Thiago. Yeah.
Hello, all 10 viewers watching the stream right now.
Oh, brother.
I shall get going now to go actually to take part in qualifying. My goal for the qualifying session, not be last. Or not be
hey, you'll be fine, don't worry.
I might still be in the bottom half, but that's my goal.
Alright, goodbye, Mr. Thiago Pereira. Have fun. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to the first round of the Formula 4 Championship here on iRacing by CMSC. My name is Nevan Jayawardena, and it's wonderful once again to be back in the commentary box for you today. Here, commentating on the first round here at Virginia International Raceway. We see the cars currently on track, and joined in the commentary box with us a few minutes ago was Thiago Pereira, the man also in the session today. What a year it's been so far in 2025, and now new year, new clean slate, I should say. Going into a fresh year with the leaderboard zeroed out. We have returning racers from the likes of Brian Pereira, Gesit Ahangamage, Shehan Gunawardena, Viren Boteju, and many more, with some new faces as well in the session with us today. Virginia International Raceway, a very famous track, of course, known for its very complex structure and, you know, how do I say this? Straights, corners. I mean, you look at the minimap, ladies and gentlemen, you can see exactly what I mean. As we can see some people already setting some lap times, and that's Viren Boteju, very experienced racer we saw last year, a man who has sheer experience in racing events like Katukurun, the real world racing events, I should say. And setting the fastest lap so far here at Virginia International Raceway, and that's Nirosh Yashan in second place, followed by Savi Ratnayaka in third, Shane Veerakon in fourth, Shehan Gunawardena in fifth, Shevan Vitarana in sixth, Uddiga Chaturanga in seventh, and Tehane Ranga in eighth. All familiar names, some new names further down in the leaderboard. We should see their lap times being set very soon. But once again, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you officially to the CMSC F4 iRacing Championship, as somebody takes a very gracious corner cut there. But yeah, we're going to see, I believe that was unintentional, but we're going to see some very interesting racing today here at VIR, as we are already seeing people going wheel to wheel here at VIR, which is very interesting to say the least. I would say this track likens a little bit to a longer form of Lime Rock Park, where we had a race last year in the F4 Championship as well. But of course, VIR, Virginia International Raceway, being a much more challenging track, demanding way more from the drivers, as we see somebody lock up there, going wide into another very technical section here, as we can see, where the drivers need to utilize a lot of the downforce from these F4 cars. There's contact already. Oh my goodness, I believe that is Yesit Tahangamage. I do not know who that was. The leaderboard didn't show it, but of course, here we have a very familiar name here on track. Durand Denan Abesekara. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, running the SpongeBob livery. The former race director is now on track, and I believe he's on controller. So yeah, the drivers have a little bit of a threat here, as that man is rapid on a controller. So yes, Duran Abesekara joining the force here on track this year in the 88 car, SpongeBob livery. So very distinctly liveried car there. Keep your eyes out as we are following Shehan Gunawardana right now, the number 22, in a blue and green, almost akin to Savi Ratnayaka's livery from last year. I believe he's running the same livery again, but there's another man to watch out, Shehan Gunawardana. So far we have, my apologies ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to the leaderboard. Tehan Eranga has passed us with a 1 minute 48.2, knocking Viren Boteju down to 10th. My goodness, I think Viren has a lot to catch up there. So far we have Tehan Eranga in first place, Nirosh Yashan in second, and Shehan Gunawardana in third, and Denan Duran Abesekara in fourth. That's that SpongeBob livery. Very easy. I mean, those eyes staring into your soul every time it drives past the camera. Yes, Duran Abesekara, Denan Abesekara chasing down Savi Ratnayaka in the Sasyanet. Yes, the Sasyanet liveried car there. Once again, this championship is proudly done by the CMSC. So thank you very much to the CMSC for bringing me out again, commentate on this race, as well as Chama Computers. We have a very, very action-packed racing series so far. So let's see what happens so far. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 8 minutes and 15 seconds left in the qualifying here at Virginia International Raceway as we ride on board Brian Pereira in a new livery, number 35, a bright red this time, as followed by Abdullah Ayaz behind him. And we see Praveen Peter, Thiago Pereira, Padmaka Vijayagunawardana, Evan Samarajiva returning, and many more racers. You'd argue, ladies and gentlemen, with this clean slate, we can't say who's who, but if I was to give you some names to look out for going off of last year, let's keep your eyes with Tehan Eranga, Shehan Gunawardana, Denan Abesekara, Savi Ratnayaka, Viren Boteju. There's many people to keep your eyes on here. With this being a spec series from last year, where the cars are practically equalized, leaving nothing up to the machinery, but only to the drivers. So it's only pure talent we'll need to see here from the drivers to get up and win or get high enough to qualify for pole position. With 7 minutes to go, quite a long qualifying session here. Of course, mistakes cannot be tolerated, and that's commentator's curse affecting Praveen Peter there in the worst way possible. So my apologies there, Praveen. I will try not to commentate on driver mistakes and errors. But as it stands, there's drivers on the straight, so I shall say what I have to say before they get to the corner. It's all up to drivers' talent and skill here. It's all up to them, not the machines, but they can utilize the other drivers in the form of dirty air down the straights, but they need to watch out going into corners where dirty air can affect them and actually make them slower, reducing their downforce with those wings. And again, with those wings, iRacing being very realistic, any slight form of tap could break the wings or suspension. So these drivers need to be extremely cautious when pushing the limits of their car. Even going over a bump in the grass could spell the meaning between setting that fast lap and complete and total disaster, as Denan Abesekara just flies by a car, letting him go. We see a puff of smoke, and we're riding aboard Abdullah Ayaz and Buddhiga Chaturanga there. Buddhiga Chaturanga running the pretty much the same livery from last year, so easy to catch him. And now we're riding on board testing. I believe my mic cut out there. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. course, come to you from Belarus live. Thanks to CMSC for setting up the stream, of course, for me to commentate. It is quite the setup I have to stream and commentate. But I am very, very, very happy to be back here in the commentary box for another year to commentate on these events. We have some serious racing. If you've followed from last year, of course, you can imagine just how crazy we have these series. And of course, this race series, thanks to CMSC running the iRacing Championship, we would like to thank our sponsors, Shama Computers, Next Level Rigs, going as one of the best racing rigs out there. We've had it at the APAC Championship when we proudly had it in Sri Lanka, as well as iRacing for providing our drivers with the free codes to enter the series and absolutely duke it out against each other here at Virginia International Raceway and all the following races in the calendar. So big thank you to our sponsors, Chama Computers, Next Level Racing and iRacing for making this one to watch. So far, status update on our qualifying leaderboard. We have Brian Pereira, who has jumped up to second place now with 148.417. Brian Pereira challenging Tehan Eranga. Very interesting battle we had last year, coming back to light in 2026. We have we're gonna have quite the opening lap here, ladies and gentlemen. So let's see what happens as time goes on. We believe we have a few minutes to go. Yes, we have 3 minutes left in qualifying. So as it stands, the drivers practically have 2 laps to go, an out lap and their final push lap. So let's see what the drivers deal with right now. So far we have Tehan Eranga, Brian Pereira and Nirosh Yeshan in the first, second and third respectively, as we're riding aboard Kevan Samarajiva. And now back to Brian Pereira. The iRacing event, of course, no stranger to us here in Lanka and CMSC. We had this racing series alongside the Assetto Corsa Championship back in the APMC when CMSC hosted it in Sri Lanka at the Sri Lanka Karting Circuit Bandargama. We had a very successful APMC event. Of course, you can check the live streams, and if you want to watch them again, it's there available on the channel. We had a very successful run with the APMC event of esports. We would like to obviously thank the FIA Esport Commission for giving us the development of esports globally. We've had many famous esport runs here in Sri Lanka, the ACC Championship, the once famous GT7 Championship, the Gran Turismo Championship, and now the iRacing Championship. And hopefully, who knows, future championships to occur. So big thanks to the FIA Esport Commission for helping us get to where we are right now, with esports being a spectacular grassroots level racing series, making it accessible for all racing fans around the world who get there on track, be it virtually or present. And later on, ladies and gentlemen, we have some exciting news, which will be the iRacing Cross Car Championship, which the winner will be given the amazing opportunity to test a real world cross car made in Sri Lanka, owned by CMSC. That's right, the Siren RCX. The same cross car that ran in the APMC Championship. The iRacing Cross Car Championship winner will be given the opportunity to test the Siren RCX, which will be incredibly amazing for the winner here of the iRacing Cross Car Championship, which will be coming soon. So stay tuned for that as well, ladies and gentlemen. As right now we can go back to the qualifying leaderboard And we see Tehane Ranga set an even faster lap with 20 seconds left on the clock. And Shevan Vitarana has gone second place, knocking Brian Pereira out of second place. And Nirosh Yeshan retains third position. Durand Abesekara. My apologies, Denan. I'm going to call you Denan Abesekara. But Denan Abesekara in fifth place with 148.6, and Thiago Pereira following suit in sixth place with a 1 minute 48.8. Shehan Gunawardena in 7th, Bala Puaduge Navodi in 8th. And that is the end of qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. Your top 3 so far, or I should say right now, was Tehan, and I lost it, my apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Oh yes, Heat 1. Now, if you haven't followed our race series from 2025, our first heat will be in reverse grid order. So, the top 8 drivers will be switched. So, Navodi leads in P1, followed by Shehan in 2nd, and Thiago Pereira in 3rd, Denan in 4th, Brian in 5th, Nirosh Yeshan in 6th, Shevan Vitarana in 7th, and Tehane Ranga in 8th. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the top 8 are inverted, meaning 8th place is in 1st, 7th is in 2nd, and so on and so forth. As for the rest of the drivers, they will line exactly where they qualified. Viren Boteju in 9th, Buddhiga Chaturanga in 10th. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Heat 1, 15 laps. As we now wait for the lights to go green. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, one here of the CMSC F4 iRacing Championship at Virginia International Raceway. A clean slate to start the year. Who's going to come out where as we wait for the lights to go green? 20 seconds left on the clock for the event to start. Clean slate, 0 leaderboard. All to fight for this year. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Green, green, green.
It's green, green, green. First time in 2026, Brian Pereira and Durand Abesekara as if drop down the order. Look at that pack of cars as we get racing underway. 2026, Navodi takes the lead so far, retaining as all the drivers relatively clean through the first corner here as we're entering a section. We see Denan duking it out with Shevan Vitarana in front, and there's glass flying everywhere. There's contact already. There goes the rear wing. I believe that was Shevan or Shehan Gunawardena. I know that Shevan Vitarana, I believe that was spun round, and there's another spin, and that was Brian Pereira that has been spun round. Shehan Gunawardena is in front now. Thiago Pereira is in first place as the leaderboard says. Navodi in second, Shehan Gunawardena in third, Denan in fourth, Tehane Ranga in fifth, Shevan Vitarana in 6th, Buddhiga Chaturanga in 7th, Kavin Rajapaksha, a new name to the racing in this series, a new name, but a former racer in the GT7 series also here as well. Savi Ratnaka in 9th and Shane Veerakon in 10th as Tehane Ranga is looking for a move on the SpongeBob livery of Denan Abesekara, I believe on a controller, and he's keeping Tehane Ranga behind him very neatly. As the drivers come down the long back straight here at Virginia International Raceway (VIR). So far, the top 3 shaken up. Thiago running a very new livery as to what he had last year. He ran a McLaren livery, but now he's in a red livery number 13, followed by Navodi, who's very close to him. I believe that is. That could not be. Yeah, my apologies. I will clarify that later. But so far, it's Shehan Gunawardena in third, and Denan, that SpongeBob car, is getting very close to Shehan Gunawardena as they dip out. Denan's looking for the inside move here, and he's utilizing the dirty air. It's side by side, a drag race to turn 1 as you complete a lap here, and Thiago goes down the inside to block. Is Denan going to go for 2 moves in 1 lap? Yes, he does. SpongeBob, ladies and gentlemen, is up into second place, and there's a lockup behind. People are going off track, but now Denan is chasing the likes of Thiago Pereira. It's wheel versus controller here. Denan is rapid with the controller, and that is brilliant driving from Denan. There's lockups galore going into this technical sector here at VIR, but that's to be expected. This track rather tests the resolve of a driver to maintain a clean line, drop off the line. Oh my goodness, I'm tripping up on my own words here. Maintain a clean resolve through the racing line here on this track. Tehan Eranga getting into the mix for the top, for the fight for the first place. Fight for first place. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot going on, but right now Tehan is challenging Denan again, having defensive, but still very much in contention for the lead here. Thiago keep a very clean head so far, with 13 laps to go. I should say actually 12 laps to go as they finish this lap, or 11 minutes and 45 seconds to go, whichever comes first, as you remember from last year. Denan dipping to the inside in an effort to... Thiago, he goes to the inside, they're side by side. The cameras following the Sasia Net car. We can barely see Denan in the lead, and Tehan Eranga No, Tehan dips back, but the SpongeBob car is in the lead. Gentlemen, Denan Abesekara so far, with Thiago Pereira having the lead to Denan, and here comes Tehan Eranga. That Sri Lanka had Denan also dipping to the inside to cover off Tehan Eranga. And Thiago is still fighting for his chance to get back into the top positions as he looks to the inside to try and dummy Tehan Eranga, but that's going to cost him as here comes the Sasia Net car Navodi. So far, Shevan, we thought get the fastest lap, but that's only a sign of his pace, and that fastest lap is very close to show that these cars are absolutely equalized, leaving it only up to drivers as Denan Abesekara, Tehan Eranga and Thiago Pereira so far are still in the run for the podium here in Heat 1, as Tehan is looking mighty close to spot. That is Denan Abesekara, as he's trying to dummy a move into the fast left-right as grass is being kicked up here. The expensive lawnmower is just going over the grass. Drivers pushing the limit, look at that. See, as trying to make a move on Thiago, and that is going to damn, there's a contact. Everyone has hit everything. There's drivers off in the back straight here, and that's going to take up the grid indefinitely, and that's Savirat Nayaka who has capitalized along with Shehan Gunawardena and Kavin Rajapaksha. Kavin Rajapaksha, of course, currently a real world racer as well in car, and a recent Formula winner at Katakurunda. No stranger to the esport world in GT7, former racing seat he had, and now making his step up into iRacing F4. A lot of talent there as well. There's Rambo, Viren Botejo, Katakurunda legend as well. The SLGT, and there's somebody right. Who is that? That's Tehan Eranga. Oh, Tehan Eranga with a mistake. What happened there? We don't know. But Tehan Eranga is unfortunately down in 9th place, with Thiago Pereira now in the lead, with Shehan Gunawardena in 2nd and Denan Abesekara in 3rd. Somebody's looking for the long way around there. My goodness. I believe that is Kavin Rajapaksa looking for the long way around Savirat Nayaka. But Viren Botejo keeping a close eye on him, and where he comes. There he is. I believe there is a bit of lag there. He's disappeared again, but he'll appear again. Yes, he's still there, ladies and gentlemen. It is sometimes a connection issue, but make no mistake, Kavin is still in the race as he is chasing after Savirat Nayaka in an effort to get P4, and Viren is in an effort to chase after Kavin Rajapaksha to try and get 5th place. Down in 6th place and 7th place, we have Viren Botejo and Buddhiga Chaturanga. I believe Viren would be very proud of me after saying that specific commentary line. He'll tell me a little bit later, but yes, Viren Botejo chasing after Kavin Rajapaksha. So far, all the drivers, as you can see, there you go, there's the slipstream train, as every single driver is trying to capitalize off of the slipstream created by the car in front. And I believe that is Tehan Eranga or Buddhiga Chaturanga who is capitalizing the most on that, because of all the combined effects of slipstream there. As of right now, ladies and gentlemen, it seems like the racing has leveled out with Kavin Rajapaksa still disappearing and reappearing. But yes, the racing has leveled out as of right now. No, never mind, I say that, but look at the front. There's Thiago Pereira, Gunawardena, and Durand Abesekara, Denan Abesekara, going absolutely side by side. It's a drag race down into the first corner. Come out where? The leaderboards side into the first corner. Thiago Pereira and Shahan. If the fourth wall can hear, can we get some eyes on them? We're following Viren Boteju. Somebody goes wide there. But it seems like there we go. We can see the fight going on. My goodness. Shehan Gunawardena overtakes Thiago Pereira and that's Viren who capitalizes on that mistake. Kavin rejoining the track at a big disadvantage. Viren kicks out and Tehan has to take avoiding action. But here comes Thiago Pereira taking first place again, and it's Denan Abesekara goes with a risky outside overtake into the fast left-right hander here, and SpongeBob, ladies and gentlemen, is back up into second place. The Race at Home series has been a long running racing series, eventually starting first with GT Sport, moving on to the level we have now, right now, ladies and gentlemen. This is Lanka's best here in this series. The Race at Home allowing drivers of being everywhere in Sri Lanka race, and it's all thanks to CMSC, Chama Computers, Next Level Racing and iRacing for giving the opportunity, sponsors and organizing this event so that we can run this and showcase all our talents here as we go back racing with a four-way fight for the lead. Thiago Pereira, Denan Abesekara, Shehan Gunawardena and now Kavi Ratnayaka. Drivers looking extremely composed so far. I say that, and here comes Shehan Gunawardena going to the outside to block him off. SpongeBob's not having any of that today, but I think that could cost him as he cuts to the outside again to block Shehan Gunawardena. That is extremely aggro racing from Denanda, and brilliant racing, I should say, as Thiago is still leading the pack, keeping a calm, cool head, as Denan is both simultaneously trying to defend Thiago as well as, attack Thiago as well as defend from Shehan and Savi, who are very eager to get by and get that first place or second place. It's a close fight here. The drivers, Denan and Thiago, practically pushing each other into the back straight of Virginia International Raceway. Denan looking extremely close to Thiago. Is he going to make a move here? Is he going to set it up for the straight? He's going to go for a switchback. He's going slightly wider. There's Shehan going for an even tighter line, try and get a better exit. But Denan on Thiago's gearbox is nudging him down that back straight. What are they going to do coming into the end here at Virginia International Raceway? Denan still extremely close to Thiago. He's going to go to the outside, or I believe it's the inside. Is he going to late break into the corner? Let's see. Thiago keeping up level ahead. He goes for it. Thiago late breaks the late breaker and retains his first place. Denan is still relatively by. I believe Shehan and Savi are just sitting back with a bucket of popcorn, just waiting for something to happen so that they could make a move here. But coming into the main straight of Virginia, Denan going with the quick 1-2 dummy switchback. Did not fool Thiago. Thiago is still racing in the same line he chose. Denan's looking for the outside move. What's he going to do now? Thiago inside, Denan going the long way around. He's going the long way around. Thiago keep his foot in enough to keep Denan at bay. Denan's now going to have the inside, and that's clinical race from Denan Abesekara in the of livery. That is simply lovely. Denan, brilliant racing there from Denan, keeping his foot in side by side through two corners and set up the move from a long way back to get the inside off the next round. And now it's a tit for tat. Denan versus Thiago, and Shehan and Savi just have a front row ticket to this. And pretty soon they're just gonna get involved should something bad happen. I don't want to bring the commentator's curse, of course, on these two drivers. Extremely clinical racing, as Savi seems to have fallen behind a little bit, I believe. He had a mistake or something may have happened, but Savi's fallen behind. as Shehan Gunawardena is still right behind the top three drivers here. Savi could gain here with that 3-car slipstream. Denon and Thiago absolutely playing mind games on each other there. As you see, Denon trying to make a move from the inside to the outside. My goodness. Somebody call IndyCar. That is brilliant mind games here as Thiago and Denon are going to do it again. As they look for them. But this time, Thiago decides to keep his cards close to his chest and let Denon run away with it for now. But the race is far from over. 2 minutes, 13 seconds on the clock. And we go for another, ladies and gentlemen. Denon, Thiago, Shehan and Savi all still within fighting distance of each other. Roughly a car length each. Denon pulling out all the stops. Thiago goes for a move to the inside and he locks up. Yikes, that's going to cost him in the long run with a little bit of a flat spot on that front right tire. As Denon keeps the cool head. But no time lost. Denon Abesekara still ahead in that very, very characteristic SpongeBob car there as Thiago follows suit in an effort to try and get back the first position that Denon has taken from him. And Shehan and Savi still enjoying their front row experience to this fight would probably like to get a little bit of that action as well. So Shehan still very close to Thiago's bumper as Thiago's bumper is close to Denon's bumper. So there's a lot of things left here in the race, ladies and gentlemen. With the last minute left in the race, I believe as the drivers cross the finish line, it should be the final lap of the race. It should be, I say, because we still have a confusion on whether the race is based on laps or time. I believe it is whichever comes first. So once they cross that finish line, I believe it's a final lap. So here, it's one last move for Denon to do something to block off Thiago, or Thiago to make a move on Denon, or Savi to get one last shot at the podium. Who knows what could happen as they are encountered. This could spell disaster here for Thiago and Denon as the traffic does well enough to get out of the time as Thiago's forced to take a corner cut, and that's just enough time lost to Thiago unless Denon slips up here. Thiago is out of the fight, and right now it stands to reason that Shehan and Savi are going to get an absolute chance here for second place as Shehan goes to the outside. But Thiago locked a little bit. Shehan getting pushed wide. Savi Ratnayaka coming around the inside. Through goes Savi to get third place from Shehan Gunawardena. Final, what could be the final lap race. And now Shehan, in an effort to get third place back from Savi, sends it up the inside. What a dive bomb. There's fights galore here, ladies. Shehan Gunawardena sending it up the inside of Savi Ratnayaka to claim third place again. And now we have a two-way fight. One for first place and one for third place. Here comes Savi Ratnayaka, incredibly close to Shehan's rear wing, meters away. What's going to happen here, ladies and gentlemen? Is Savi going to make a move on Shehan? Yes, he is. He's looking. He's put this for the right round. Brian Pereira. And I think that's iRacing's automatic camera system. Who knows what happened? Look at the leaderboard. It's close by. Shehan Gunawardena and Savi Ratnayaka drag racing down straight. It's all to play for here. I believe Thiago and Denon have come to terms with where they're going to finish. But right now, that's not the case for Savi and Shehan. Here they come. Going side by side. It's a late move from Savi. Could he nudge Shehan in that direction? Not a chance. Shehan's keeping an incredibly cool head against Savi, and I'm losing my voice as I speak. Shehan and Savi battling it out, leaving no stone unturned as Denon Abesekara does the wiggle of celebration, coming down the finish line. And that's Denon in first place, Thiago in second, and Shehan Gunawardena in third place, with Savi Ratnayaka in fourth. Are they racing? Yet to find out. I mean, it looks like they are. Looks like they are still racing. Oh no, they aren't. That is the race over, ladies and gentlemen. That is your order. Denon Abesekara wins Heat 1 at Virginia International Raceway. And look at that. Absolute sportsmanship from the two drivers there. Denon Abesekara and Thiago Pereira. An absolute back-to-back-to-back battle between these two drivers. An absolute and utmost respect between them. Brilliant racing from those two drivers. Denan Abesekara, your winner, won at Virginia International Raceway of round 1 of the CMSC iRacing F4 Championship. Followed by Thiago Pereira in second, Shehan Gunawardena in third, Savi Ratnayaka in fourth, Buddhiga Chaturanga in fifth, Viren Boteju in sixth, Abdullah Ayaz in seventh, Brian Pereira in eighth, Tehan Eranga in ninth, and Kevan Samarajiva with a top 10 finish. And my apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Navodi, who I've been calling, is actually, in fact, Sharanya Mendes. My apologies there, Sharanya. I will now remember that going forward into the next few races. But my goodness, what a race we've had so far, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go just yet. We have more coming up. Oops, as Thiago and Dylan, of course, having slight banter after the race is done. Don't go anywhere yet, ladies and gentlemen. We have another race coming up right after this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the second race. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is a reverse grid order of previous finishing order. So since Denan finished in first place, he will now be in 8th. Thiago finished in 2nd, he will now be in 3rd, and so on and so forth. Which means our Sri Lankan down under, Brian Pereira, is in first place, followed by Abdullah Ayaz in 2nd, Viren Boteju in 3rd, Buddhiga Chaturanga in 4th, Savi Ratnayaka in 5th, Shehan Gunawardena in 6th, Thiago Pereira in 7th, and Denan Abesekara, the previous race winner, in 8th. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we line up for the second race. Once again, 15 minutes, 15 laps. We wait for the green flag.
Green, green, green.
Green, 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 as the spotter says, and that's a brilliant race start by Savi Ratnayaka. My goodness. He was a lightning bolt off the start as Brian, oh my goodness, the cars have taken flight behind and there's contact, there's chaos everywhere in the start of the race. Oh my goodness, there's the chaos we missed, and there's another car going back. It's absolute pandemonium. We don't know who went where, but right now, as it stands, ladies and gentlemen, Brian Pereira is in first place, Savi Ratnayaka in 2nd, Thiago Pereira in 3rd, Tehan Eranga in 4th, Kevan Samarajiva up 5th, Sharanya Mendes in 6th, Kelmin Jung in 7th, my apologies, ladies and gentlemen, Ganidu Disanayaka in 8th, Praveen Peter in 9th, and Sahan Madhusankar in 10th. Everyone has gone everywhere. The grid has literally been shaken up after that horrendous incident of the first lap. My goodness. I believe Denan got caught up in that, and many other drivers. My gosh, that was an abysmal race start. But it is to be expected. Racing incidents. It's not obviously the fault of the drivers. It can be. It happens, ladies and gentlemen. And unfortunately, a lot of drivers got shot and off the track, got shot off the track. And now the grid order has been shaken up. Savi Ratnayaka, who once fought for 3rd earlier, is for first place. And now he's challenging Brian Pereira with Thiago Pereira very close behind. Everything has worked out for Thiago Pereira so far. I'm sure he's going to capitalize on this, as Savi is extremely close to Brian Pereira there. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, Thiago Pereira 3rd place, followed by Tehan Eranga in 4th with that APMC livery that he ran in the Asia Pacific Motorsport Games, Motorsport Championship, which was held in Sri Lanka. As now the drivers seem to try to weave down the straight to try and heat their tires up. My goodness. But a 3-10 separate Savi Ratnayaka and Brian Pereira, and Tehan Eranga 4-10s just behind Thiago Pereira. Once again, we have two-way battles, one for first and one for third. Kevan Samarajiva, of course, would like some of that. Oh, my apologies, ladies and gentlemen, there's a safety car. Oh, this is going to shake things up. Very interesting. Naturally, that crash at the start. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time we got a safety car in the iRacing. This is going to spell incredible strategy calls, or I should say, driving styles, with all the drivers now being very, very, very close to each other. Who's to say what, actually? Because as we see, drivers absolutely locked in the background in an effort to try and heat their tires with the residual heat off the brakes. They might want to be careful though, they could flat spot those tires. Well, as it stands, your order is Brian Pereira, Savi Ratnayaka, Tiago Pereira, Tehan Eranga, Kevan Samarajiva, Sharanya Mendes, Kermin Jung, Daridu Disanayaka, Shevan Vitarana, Viren Boteju, and Praveen Peter. I believe that's Denon out of the race, unfortunately. A lot of cars out of the race with that big crash at the start of the race. Oh, and Shevan Vitarana had to go for some downforce reduction. He has lost his rear wing, ladies and gentlemen. That's our first, I believe, no, not our first, I think our second or third downforce reduction of the year. And unfortunately, that is going to spell disaster for corner exits because, well, these Formula cars rely heavily on, and without that sheer downforce grip levels off the line, the power of the Formula 4 cars is probably going to handle like a Formula Ford. As you can see, a lot of drivers trying to keep some heat in their tires. This is going to be an extremely short and close race. As the time ticks down, safety car is keeping the pace for all drivers. So let's see where this goes. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see a lot of drivers decided to take a pit stop here in the safety car period, which would be the brilliant choice as of right now, because with the safety car blocking, or not blocking, but lowering the pace and keeping the cars all together, this would mean a free pit stop effectively, but they would sacrifice their places on track. And I believe that's Viren Botejo, who has jumped up to 7th place, and Gesi Tahangamage, who has also climbed up into 8th place with a lot of changes. And now, keep your eyes on the drivers that had a pit stop, ladies and gentlemen. They could be incredibly fast. With those fresh tires, damage repaired, they could be quick, leaving Brian Pereira, Savi Ratnayaka, and all the other fighters a little bit of a challenge. So, as there's a disappearing Red Bull in the middle of the track as well, but that's entirely net code. So, don't need to worry, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, there's a lot of cars that are back in the running, and that's a wingless SpongeBob in the background. That is Denan Abesekara. And there's more wings being lost here in the safety car period. There's wings getting scattered everywhere, and this probably will not be good post race. There's a Red Bull without a wing. There's multiple wings. There's a wingless SpongeBob. Don't know what's happening right now, ladies and gentlemen. Seems like all the current drivers are being allowed to unlap themselves, it seems. But we do not know what's going on. As of yet, we are just simply waiting for the safety car to come in, and what on earth is going on? This has just become a game of bumper cars, really. What's going on? People going left, right, and center. That's Denon with his rear left wheel absolutely gone. We do not know what's happening. But I myself am just as confused as you are, ladies and gentlemen. I believe we're just waiting for this race to get underway. Cars are speeding up. I believe we're racing. Let's look for the safety car. No. Each other. Safety car is still there. My apologies. Safety car coming out means all the previous drivers could enter back into the race, but I believe this is going to be a 1 or 2 lap shootout. So this will be interesting, to say the least. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, all the drivers are back on the grid after having repaired their cars, wings all fixed, except for that one car in the distance we can see there. I believe the safety car is going to come in, as yes, its lights are off, and I believe we're going to go racing again as the drivers all line up in a 2x2 formation. We're waiting for that Porsche safety car to enter the pits to get some racing underway. Brian Pereira is going to have quite the threat from Savirat Nayaka as soon as racing is underway. I believe we're only going to have 2 laps in this race, which is going to be very interesting, as we have Savirat Nayaka leading. We have Brian Pereira leading the way. Savi Ratnayaka, Thiago Pereira, Tehane Ranga, and Kevan Samarajiva, all in the fight for P1. As you see, the safety car enter the pits. It's just a matter of waiting for the green flag. O'Brien using absolutely all the keys. And we're racing again, gentlemen. Kevan Samarajiva, he's challenging the likes of Thiago Pereira. It's a 3x3. It's a three-way run down the corner. As there's a car going extremely. Pereira gone wide. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? As Tehane Ranga up in the mix, and that's Thiago Pereira back in place. What happened there? There was a car going extremely slow. That's Kevan Samarajiva up in second place, followed by Tehane Ranga in third, and I believe that's Savi Ratnayaka in fourth. As Kevan locks up, and there's contact again. There's more chaos in this second race here. Someone's gone wide again and lost the win. Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, this is absolute chaos. And right now, I think it's just about getting the cars off track and racing. As you follow Sharani Mendes making a move on, who am I looking at here? Is that Brian Pereira and Savi Ratnayaka, who's gone down place. Oh dear. Savi has had quite the race start, quite the unfortunate race start, I should say. That's Viren Botejo up in fourth now, chasing the likes of Kevan Samarajiva, who has a podium, P3 in this race. And there's another car gone. Savi Ratnayaka again. Oh gosh, it's a race for Savi to forget. And that's Shehan Vitarana making a move on. Wait, who am I looking at here? I believe we're following Shehan Vitarana chasing down Praveen Peter. Yes, that's Shehan Vitarana chasing down Praveen Peter. As you see there in the camera, Viren Botejo trying to chase after Kevan Samarajiva, and Thiago's keeping behind Tehane Ranga. And Thiago is going to get justice for his previous race if all goes well as he comes around the final corner to start the first. Kevan Samarajiva out and taken everyone out. There's chaos down the front straight. Kevan Samarajiva has gone, unfortunately ending his race with that wheel gone. That's Brian Pereira up in fifth place now, and Praveen Pete up in fourth. Viren Botejo in third, Tehane Ranga in second, and Thiago Pereira in first. Thiago just has to keep it on track, and there's another car. Praveen, who was that again? That's Brian, I believe. And I think that's Sharanya Mendes who's capitalized that mistake. I believe, I don't know who's now. It's hard to follow the car's numbers, but I believe that's Viren Botejo, Praveen Peter, and Sharanya Mendes. My gosh, it's chaos, ladies and gentlemen. Thiago Pereira so far in the lead, holding on and gaining as much places as possible. Viren Botejo also right there in third place, and it's quite the gap to Tehane Ranga. I think Viren is just going to retain third place if he can keep Praveen Peter behind. As it stands, Thiago Pereira is going to get his victory from the previous race with Tehane Ranga in second place. Wait, hold on. I say that, look in the distance, oh goodness. Tehane Ranga is, I believe he's side by side now with Thiago. We can't see it. Tehane Ranga, yes, look at the lead. Tehane Ranga has made a move. Has he made the move? Enough. Look at the leaderboard. Tehane Ranga, Thiago Pereira come out on top. I believe that's Tehane Ranga who's made the move on Thiago. And Thiago has unfortunately lost his first place in the final corner. And I believe that's going to spell the end of the race for him. That's Thiago Pereira. He's at the end of the race. As you wait to see the leaderboard. Tehane Ranga crosses the line in first place, and Thiago Pereira in second. I believe that is the end of the race as the session time is over. And I think that is the end of the race there, ladies and gentlemen. Tehane Ranga, Thiago Pereira, and Viren Botejo are your podium for this race as well. Tehane Ranga winning the second race of this series. My goodness, a race of absolute chaos. But wait, ladies and gentlemen, there's more. We have one more race to go. But there's your winner, Tehane Ranga, snatching the win from Thiago Pereira just in the penultimate corner. And Thiago will finish in second place, and Viren Botejo will finish in third. Absolute chaos, absolute pandemonium at the race start and at the race end. My goodness, that was crazy, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere just yet. We have one more race to go, so stay tuned. Hello there. The very famous Sam Smith is with us in the stream chat as well. Apologies, I cannot see the stream chat, but he is there. Hello to all our friends watching on SD's video. Hello there. Good to see everyone here watching along the stream. We have, of course, apologies, ladies and gentlemen. I believe I might cut out again, but I'm back. And now we line up for the feature race, which is now 30 minutes as opposed to 15. And the finishing order will be, or I should say, the starting order will be the finishing order of the previous race. So, your previous race winner, Tehan Eranga, will line up on pole position, followed by Tiago Pereira, Viren Boteju, Praveen Peter, Sharanya Mendis, Brian Pereira, Savi Ratnayaka, Shehan Silva, Janidu Disanayaka, and Gesi Tahagamage, rounding out the top 10. So now, ladies and gentlemen, here we have pit stops. So now, at any point in the race, should, according to the driver's decision, they have to come in and make a pit stop. Change the tires and repair whatever damage is left. As you wait for the flags to go green.
Green, green, green.
There's the green, green, green. We are underway. Final race of today. Round 1 of the CMSC FIA F4 Championship. Here in iRacing. It's all to play for here. 30 minutes of pure racing with pit stops now enabled. Mandatory pit stop, I should say. Tehan Eranga leads the way, followed by Tiago Pereira in second and Viren Boteju already challenging Tiago for P4, P3, and Brian Pereira making the move on Praveen Peter there. Sharani Mendis and Savi Ratnayaka racing side by side in the Sasia Net cars there. And Janidu Disanayaka also there as well. Kelmin Jung, and there's a lockup already. There's people going, what? My goodness, watch out for a safe rejoin. Make sure nobody caught up in that. And yes, there was a safe rejoin, but oh dear, that's Kevan Samaranjiva. And I think that's another collision for Kevan there. Needs to be very careful going into that sector, of course, with there being very fast left and right-handers. But that's Kevan Samrajiva having an unfortunate mistake there, and there's Lohan Tilakaratna as well in 13th place there, and Denan Abesekara chasing the likes of Lohan, as there is a very, very illustrious move. He has just collided. That's Gesi Tahangamage, who has just lost his front wing, and that could spell disaster going into the rest of the race. Without that front wing, these cars can barely turn, and that's a three-way race. Down the straight, back straight here at VIR, and oh my gosh, there is extreme defensive moves here going on. Unfortunate there for whoever was caught up in that. I could not see the number in time, but we're still racing, and there's somebody getting a little bit of a nudge going wide, and Shane Veerakorn as we ride on board with him right now. Tiago Pereira and Tehan Eranga, meanwhile, my goodness, there's a big fight. Oh dear. Tiago's lost a lot of places. What's happened there? That's third place. Savi Ratnayaka. No, wait. Savi in third place. Brian in fourth. What's going on at the top? What's going on at the top? We can't see. As it stands, I believe Tiago Pereira is still second. That was a bug in the timing. Yes. I saw Tiago there at the far side of the track. Tiago is still in second place as riding aboard Kelmin Jung in the Red Bull livery. So that was Kelmin in the Red Bull livery, followed by Shane Veerakorn right behind Kelmin, and Lohan Tilakaratna and Denan Abesekara in the SpongeBob car. Oh dear, there's a mistake there from Denan. I don't know whose fault that was, but that was Denan, and I believe Lohan Tilakaratna going wide. And this is turning into absolute chaos again. Deja vu from the previous race, but thankfully not as bad as the previous race. As it stands, we're following on board Viren Botejo, who's getting a little bit of pressure from the Sri Lankan down under, Brian Pereira, a man who is obviously no stranger again, who is no stranger to the esports world. All of these guys being esports veterans. Brian Pereira being a multiple championship winner of the GT7 race at home series. As I'll put that on pause for a second because Thiago Pereira is getting pressured by Mr. Viren Botejo, who is going to look for an extremely opportunistic move. Nope, not opportunistic, clinical move on Thiago Pereira going into the last few corners of VIR here. Back to Brian Pereira, a man who is a veteran at esports and real world racing as well, having raced formulas in real life as well as running, being a multiple championship winner of the GT7 race at home series, and also having represented Sri Lanka at the Virtual Olympics esports series when he went and raced representing Sri Lanka in Gran Turismo 7. Another opportunity created by CMSC here for young drivers, for many drivers who want to showcase their talents, bringing it to the real world. As Viren Botejo now in second place, Brian Pereira in third, having overtaken Thiago, and Thiago fourth place, and the order has been flipped on its head. Thiago Pereira now in fourth place in an effort to try and get back Brian. He is absolutely going to push it to the limit, but expect more conservative driving from these guys here, ladies and gentlemen, because it being a 30-minute race, there's more time to play. There's also a pit stop to keep a track of. So these drivers could just hold it out instead of absolutely going for it like a sprint race would. This is a feature race. So it's all about a game of strategy here, ladies and gentlemen. So don't be surprised if drivers are driving extremely conservatively here. As it stands, Tehane Ranga is still the man to beat, and Viren Botejo is 3 seconds off of Tehane Ranga. But in his rearview mirrors, 4 tenths behind, is Brian Pereira, who wants that third place, that second place from Viren Botejo. Is he going to make a move, or is he going to nudge Viren into a mistake? I say nudge. He literally nudged Viren, and unfortunately, oh dear, that did not go the way Brian presumed it would. And that's Viren, unfortunately, who has lost that position. Unfortunate there for Viren Botejo. But he's now in 6th place, chasing after Sharanya Mendes. And that brings Thiago back up into the podium fight. Thiago being in 3rd. And Savi Ratnayaka in P4, as now we go back the grid to Padmaka Vijay Gunawardana, who chasing after Shane Veerakorn, with Shahan Silva right behind him. Shyamal Mendes also in the race here in 15th place. Shivan Vitarna in 16th. Because the man currently in the lead, Tehan, has being the winner of the previous championship 2025 previous year, has got a sponsorship to transition from the winner from esport to Saudi karting in 2026 from CMSC, a sponsorship to make the jump from esports to real life. So of course esports being a very crucial grassroots level sport now, bringing out talent where it could not be discovered before due to some people being unable to access the racing, the real world racing world. Testing. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen, the mic cut out again. So yes, Tehan has received sponsorship from the CMSC to transition into real life racing from the esports world, which he has so dominated in the past. So essentially reinforcing the fact that esports can bring out really strong talents, and it is a very crucial grassroots level sport. So once again, big thanks to our sponsors, Chama Computers, Next Level Racing Rigs, and of course iRacing for hosting us and making this championship possible through CMSC. A clean slate, multiple chaos in the races, absolute chaos I should say. Many more rounds and championships to come. So ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for those. Of course, as mentioned previously, we have our cross car championship coming up, where the winner of that championship will be given the amazing opportunity to test out the Siren RCX cross car that is proudly built and manufactured in Sri Lanka. The winner will be given a private test. So a lot of great news in the esports world, and CMSC making it possible for many Sri Lankans get there in the racing world. Let's not forget Savi Ratnayaka as well, given a sponsorship to move up into Yamaha karting. So of course CMSC fostering new talents up in the racing world. So essentially once again reinforcing the fact that esports is a very crucial grassroots level sport, bringing out new talent. So Savi Ratnayaka moving up to Yamaha karting and Tehan moving up to Sodi karting. Thanks to CMSC for bringing up these talents as well. As we see the aforementioned Savi Ratnayaka giving Brian Pereira the real run down the twisty left-right section. Is Savi going to set up a move here, or is he going to go down the back straight as Brian keeps it really neat and tidy going into the back straight? But Savi extremely close to his bumper, and so is Thiago Pereira, who has also got caught up in the mix. It'll be interesting to see where Savi Ratnayaka makes a move on Brian Pereira, if he can make a move. Brian is a mobile chicane, and Brian knows his way out around defending somebody on track. As see Savi Ratnayaka dip to the inside. Is Brian going to call out Savi on his bluff and keep a foot down the inside? Yes, he does, as Savi keeps his foot on the inside. This is extremely good racing, as Savi is forced to back out as Brian makes the sharp cut to cover off the racing line from Savi there, which kind of pushed Savi a little further back from Brian, further than he'd hoped. But that brings Thiago into the fight once again. The dust being kicked up here at VIR, naturally being raced on here so many times, and people having spun out, bringing the dirt onto the track. So a lot of variables here, ladies and gentlemen. iRacing being an excellent simulation, giving crucial tire data, suspension geometry. Everything is crucial here in this racing simulation, giving nothing but the best racing here for all the drivers, and a good test of their skill and resolve. So again, big thanks to iRacing for giving our drivers the codes through CMSC to get us this championship. Because just look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Just look at our talent and what we have here for you. Brian Pereira still holding off Savi Ratnayaka in second place. Savi still hungry for that silver instead of the bronze. Thiago Pereira, I say this, we got a wonderful. Thiago's got a wonderful VIP front row seat, and I'll be saying this all the time. Thiago's got a bucket of popcorn just watching this fight going on, and maybe get involved in the action at some point during the race. Savi Ratnayaka with another dummy move to try and dummy out Brian Pereira. I say dummy, ladies and gentlemen. No, dummying is a term where, well, as the name suggests, trying to force the other driver into assume that you're making a move, but in reality you're just setting that other driver up for failure. It's mind games, nothing but mind games here in racing. But still, Brian holds his resolve, and Tehan is flying away. Tehan has jumped into a different time zone. We saw him on the other side of the track. It is absolutely humongous gap that Tehan has pulled. I could not find the words to describe that. Tehan, of course, has gone into a different time zone here in this race, and I believe this is the race we'll have to follow as it stands, with some funny predictions coming in, but who knows what will happen, as Savi is getting quite impatient there against Brian Pereira, and Thiago hanging back, watching everything unravel in front of his eyes. Nearing the halfway mark with 16 and a half minutes to go. Anything and all to play for here, ladies and gentlemen. Alright everyone, Tavi Ratnayaka and Brian Pereira are very close to each other. Are we going to see a move on anybody here? Savi is getting very close to Brian Pereira there. As we look down the order, Viren Botejo has come back up place. Dula Ayaz in 9th, Kian Minjung in 8th, Udika Chaturanga in 7th, Nirosh Sheshan in 6th. As we see Brian, he's getting a little squirrely there on the rear, and in his defensive moves, Savi is getting very close. Sorry about that everyone, my mic just cut out. I'm back, and Brian Pereira and Savi Ratnayaka, here we go, a fight into the first corner. My goodness, extremely tight from Brian Pereira, and Savi Ratnayaka gets extremely close to Brian. What's going to happen here? My gosh, he blocked out the line perfectly, and Savi is still behind Brian Pereira, still having to try and force his way around. Brian keeping an excellent line on Savi there. 3 tenths separate these drivers here. Gonna be extremely close. Still more to go here. 12 minutes, 45 seconds left. Brian Pereira, or 30 minutes, or 30 laps, my apologies, whichever comes first. But Brian Pereira and Savi Ratnayaka are leaving no stone unturned here, as Savi is going to try and set up a move around the outside of the corner here. No, he won't. Savi is holding. But now, quite the slipstream run. Savi's gonna get from Brian Pereira's toe. Will that be enough to make a move into the chicane here? None of the drivers favoured a move in there, apart from Denon and Thiago and Tehaneranga. But it seems like Savi is too far behind to actually make a move on Brian Pereira. So he's going to set up a move, I believe, into the main straight where Savi did make his move earlier, but not conveniently, but like perfectly blocked out by Brian Pereira. And now we ride on board new drivers, guess it? With Janitu Disanayaka behind, and we're back with Brian Pereira and Savi Ratnayaka, who is considerably way further apart. And now we're on board Chaturanga, and I believe that is Abdullah Ayaz chasing after Buddhiga Chaturanga. Oh no, wait, my apologies. That is I believe that is Buddhiga Chaturanga we are following. Yes, chasing after Nirosh Yeshan. As you saw, drivers in the pits. So here we go, everybody. Drivers have now come into the pits. And oops, there goes Buddhiga Chaturanga. That's an unfortunate take there from him, as Nirosh Yeshan will now gain a bigger gap. And now, everybody, we have the drivers in, which means that now we should see some drivers start their strategies. Tehaneranga, who is a literal time zone away, will all the time in the world to gain up on the rest of the drivers and keep Brian Pereira at bay. But remember, all drivers must make a pit stop as Brian now locks up going into the main straight. This could this could give Savi a moment of success here. What's he going to stand? We'll see in a bit, as we now back to Buddhiga Chaturanga chasing after Nirosh Yeshan. Oh no, not Nirosh Yeshan. I believe that is Gesit Ahangamage. So that fight is not what we're looking at right now. They are not fighting, but these two certainly are. That's Brian Pereira and Savi Ratnayaka. Savi clawing away at that gap ever so slightly, 4 tenths, 5 tenths. Oh, he's losing a little bit of time, but it's all a matter of resolve here, everybody. 10 minutes left on the clock. Is anybody going to dip into the pits? Yes. Savi makes the move into the pits. And now it's all up to Brian to make a strong in-lap to try and keep Savi's undercut, and retain the position as somebody goes extremely wide. And I do not know who that was, but that was a very unfortunate. Now we're going on board Thiago Pereira, the man in 8th place, who is being chased by Sharani Mendes right behind him. 7 tenths separate these two drivers. I believe they have made their pit stops already. And yes, let's see what's going on here. I believe these two have made their pit stops. So, oops, there's been a bit of a lockup and there's somebody gone wide. Who's gone wide there? I believe that was Viren Botejo who has gone wide. And there was an unfortunate mistake there. But now, Brian Pereira, as you can see, rounding the back straight, and Savi Ratnayaka in 5th place. We can see him entering the technical section up in front of these two drivers, Thiago and Sharani Mendes. Is that gap going to be enough for Brian to close off, or is Savi going to get the jump, the undercut on Brian Pereira here, as Thiago and Sharani Mendes are now navigating the fast left rights. Thiago being chased by Sharani Mendes being chased by Viren Botejo. It's all extremely close here as we check to see if Brian is going to cover off Savi's move. I believe so. Yes, there's Brian in the pits. You can see the minimap. The number 1 has disappeared, which means Brian is in the pits. Is he going to cover off Savi's move? Where is Savi Ratnayaka? Look at the minimap, everyone. In 5th place, we see Savi Ratnayaka entering the final complex of corners here. Is that going to be enough to keep Savi Ratnayaka out in P2 here, as Tehaneranga zips past Brian Pereira? And I believe Brian Pereira has come out on track in 2nd place, and Savi Ratnayaka is in 3rd. It's pretty much the same gap here, everyone. It's 1 second, 1 second and 3/10 separating these two drivers. Savi's undercut did not work on Brian Pereira, and once again we are back to Tehan Eranga in first place, Brian Pereira in second, and Savi Ratnayaka in third place. All to play for here with 7 minutes left in the session. We're still following Sharanya Mendes, chasing after Thiago Pereira with Viren Botejo just inside of Sharanya Mendes. There's yellow flags on track, as you can see the number 22 stuck on track. Look at the minimap on your right there, everybody. And he's back moving now, so thankfully you don't have yellow flags there. The drivers can keep racing. Brian Pereira still has Savi Ratnayaka about a second behind him, as you can see there. Now, as Brian is going to get held up by a little bit of traffic, the blue flags will probably be waving away, trying to get Brian Pereira past in time before the corner, so that his race is not going to get affected by Savi Ratnayaka, who is a second behind him. There we go, he moves out of the way and gives Brian the room he needs. Oh dear, Brian Pereira! Oh gosh, that was not what Brian Pereira expected. Oh goodness. And that's Brian Pereira with a lockup going into the final complex of corners, giving Savi Ratnayaka second place. And now there's wheel-to-wheel battles with Shyama Mendes and Brian Pereira. Shyama Mendes has been sent spinning. Brian Pereira needing to keep that third place. As now we follow on board Tehan Eranga, the man who's in a zone. We've only seen Tehan's driving like this in ACC when he raced with the yellow Ford Mustang. And I'm sure every other driver here in this lobby who is a very frequent RAH driver knows Tehan's sheer dominance, as we see Thiago Pereira with a little bit of a lock-up there, bringing Sharanya Mendes closer to the fight. All these drivers, of course, knowing each other very closely, will probably be knowing about Tehan's sheer dominance in Assetto Corsa Competizione in the Ford Mustang. But right now, the cameras are fixed on Thiago Pereira and Sharanya Mendes. There's another slow car as they're trying to get this battle underway, and Sharanya Mendes, unfortunately, held up a little bit by the traffic, giving Thiago some breathing room, but unfortunately bringing Viren Botejo, unfortunately for Sharanya Mendes I say, but fortunately for Viren Botejo, bringing Sharanya closer to him to start a fight and try to get back up into P6. All to play for here. As it stands, Savi Ratnayaka has a 4-second lead on Brian Pereira, and that means he has to keep Brian behind for another nearly 2 laps as it stands. Thiago running away, and I joined back in the commentary just in time to say what a stellar move by Viren Botejo there on Sharanya Mendes. But now Sharanya has 2 obstacles to get past, and that's Viren Botejo who goes a fight there going into the twisty complexes here. Sharanya gets a little bit of a lock up there on her rear tire. 3 minutes left on the clock here, as Thiago Pereira steams away in 5th place with Viren Botejo chasing suit in 6th place, and Sharanya Mendes trying to get back at least one of the places that she was chasing after. The gap to Savi and Brian is 3 seconds. Brian Pereira has clawed back 1 second, but that's not going to be enough if Brian wants that second place from Savi Ratnayaka there. All the drivers now having finished their pit stops, it's all to play for now. Conservative driving, maintaining a cool head, and now a man that needs to maintain a cool head is Thiago Pereira, because in his mirrors is Viren Botejo, chasing Thiago all the way down the back straight. Just look at the difference a slipstream can make in these cars. And Viren Botejo ducks to the inside as Thiago is left sitting as Viren Botejo make a clean move into the final chicane of VIR, the penultimate corners, and Viren Botejo has sailed past 7th place and 6th place to get up into 5th place. Tehan Eranga increasing that gap to Savi Ratnayaka, 16 seconds away from Savi, from 2nd place, Savi Ratnayaka. Tehan, it's safe to say as of right now, he is keeping a very cool head to try and finish the race on a high. But right now, Savi Ratnayaka, that gap has fallen to Brian Pereira. Thiago managing to drive absolutely clinical considering the fact that he's in Canada. Remember that there's drivers from all over the world here. Thiago Pereira in Canada, Brian Pereira in Australia, and Durand Abesekara, Denan Abesekara in Malaysia. So Race at Home just allows all the drivers to be here present to race together and showcase their skill and talent here. So kudos to the drivers who are racing from all over the world who made it here. It's an honor to have you guys here as well, as Thiago is getting very close to the Viren here. It's going to be very close, 43 seconds, as Tehan Eranga will round the final corner. As you can see on the minimap there, the number 1 coming close to the black line, which is start-finish, to start the final lap of the feature race. It's all to play for here. For Savi Ratnayaka, it's a matter of cool head. And oh, my apologies everyone, I've forgotten to mention that we have Abdullah Ayaz as a driver from Bangladesh who also raced in C. So welcoming him as well to the grid, as well as many other drivers who have been given a great shot to race here. And we go back to the race right now, ladies and gentlemen, everyone. We have Viren Botejo in 5th place, Thiago Pereira 6/10 behind. There's traffic. This is going to be a close one, everyone, as Thiago just manages to get by the traffic, and Savi Ratnayaka still keeping that 2-second lead on Brian Pereira, and Brian Pereira securing 3rd place effectively. Right now all eyes are on Thiago and Viren Botejo. Unfortunately, Sharanya Mendes has fallen behind a little bit with a little lock up there as well. But right now, Thiago Pereira is battling Viren Botejo. It's all to play for right now for P5. You can see just how much a single position could mean in the grand scale of the championship. But right now, Viren Botejo is showing absolutely no signs of deterioration, and so does Thiago Pereira. These two drivers are retaining, Thiago gaining even on Viren Botejo. 3/10 up, now 4/10, 5/10, and there's the driver in the back as well as locked up there. Big spin from whoever that is in front. I believe that is... Oh no, my apologies. That is Shahan Gunawardana, number 22. But right now, Thiago Pereira a little bit far behind Viren Botejo to actually make a move. But Nirosh Yashan is also very close to Thiago Pereira. This is going to be interesting. Oh wait, my apologies. Viren Botejo jumped up into 4th. That's Nirosh Yashan who's chasing after Thiago. He's spun. Viren Botejo's up into 4th place and Thiago's up in 5th. Thiago with just one corner left, the ultimate, the final corner. And Nirosh Yashan is going to get a bit of a run. That's Tehan Eranga who's crossed the line, but who's going to win this race? Who's going to win this battle? That's Viren Botejo who comes out in 4th, Thiago in 5th, and Nirosh Yashan in 6th. What a race, ladies and gentlemen. That's Tehan Eranga who has won the race. That's... Oh, there's celebratory collisions. And that is Tehan Eranga in 1st place, followed by Savi Ratnayaka in 2nd, Brian Pereira in 3rd, Viren Botejo in 4th, Thiago Pereira in 5th, Nirosh Yashan in 6th, and many other drivers as now we're following on board. Kelvin Jung, oh my goodness, that driver in the back took a very generous line there. And there's your final order presented by the 4th wall. That is Tehan Eranga in first place, Ravi Ratnayaka in second, Brian Pereira in third, Viren Botejo in fourth, Thiago Pereira in fifth, Nirosh Yashan in sixth, Sharanya Mendis in seventh, Buddhiga Chaturanga in eighth, Shehan Gunawardena in ninth, Denan rounding off the top 10. What a wonderful race we've had here today, ladies and gentlemen. 3 races, all action-packed, and some chaotic field, of course. Thank you once again for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. This the CMSC iRacing F4 Championship. We'll see you all in the next one. My name is Nevan Jayawardena. See you all there. Goodbye.